Hi, you clicked onto today's tropical tidbit for Friday, a fairly quick video today. There are a few things to look at in the tropical Atlantic. We've got a second front coming off the southeast coast of the US and near Bermuda, and this doesn't look like a significant threat right now, but these things should always be watched for homegrown mischief, which can sneak up when least expected. So we'll watch this area to see if any lows try to form, but right now doesn't look like too significant of a deal. This is a tropical wave moving into the western Caribbean, not very amplified, getting ventilated, but should be moving west into Central America and not have time to develop. This is another tropical wave coming into the eastern Caribbean, and this is associated with a broad area of cyclonic turning. I'll be coming into the western Caribbean in a few days, and this should be washed as it gets into a more ventilated area. The upper environment may not be perfect, but this will be getting ventilated. The tut's in here, and this is creating outflow for this area in the western Caribbean. Once this gets in here, it may have to be watched for some potential mischief. We've got our Invest 90L over here in the eastern Caribbean, and if we get a close-up on this, this is well defined. You can see the spin quite well on visible here, but in terms of thunderstorm activity, this doesn't stand out near as much as it has been the last couple of days. This is not moving as expected. If we go back here, you can see that this is starting to gain a little bit of latitude, but as I said yesterday, this is not going to be moving westward very much during the next couple of days, and the reason would be this large area of very light winds, non-existent trade winds, and that's because the intertropical convergence zone has sort of split. You got a secondary ITCZ in here, the old one's down here, and then it resumes again down here. And this is because of a very broad and deep area of low pressure associated with two tropical waves that merged, and there's a major, in other words, this is a fancy way of saying that there's a very larger than normal area of doldrums in here, and the doldrums are a term used to describe the area near the intertropical convergence zone where winds are light, and ships would have trouble sailing through that area because of light winds. In a sense, this is what this is, because we've got a double intertropical convergence zone, so this whole area has very light winds, and so this isn't getting steered westward very fast. This will lift north and then gradually accelerate west-northwest over the next couple of days. The interesting thing, something the Hurricane Center also mentioned this morning, is this large wave behind it coming off Africa, and this will be coming westward. And with this sitting out here stalling, it'll be interesting to see if this tries to merge with 90L and be the real kicker for development. If this comes west and merges, this may be the real thing that starts development if this does try to develop as it heads west-northwest. As it stands right now, with this embedded in the intertropical convergence zone, it's not going to develop quickly and will not be a system that will tend to rapidly strengthen over the next few days. It'll be just slowly organizing in here, if it does organize at all. We're still not entirely sure whether this is going to develop. These are some of the model tracks, and these runs over here make more sense than they did yesterday. We had more of the runs up here yesterday with the big northwest movement. Didn't make much sense. You had the GFDL up here with the HWROF. You can see the old run from last night. These usually have a poleward bias early in the storm's lifetime. These make more sense. I think this will come up, try to gain some latitude, and then take a west-northwest track towards the northeast Caribbean islands over here, northern Antilles, in a few days. The European 0Z last night changed its tune yet again. This is day 3 with the low. You can see it takes it directly west this time into the central Antilles, and by day 9 over here develops into a big hurricane in the central Caribbean. This is very different from the European, which was showing it up here for the last few runs. It did have it in here. The very first run that it ever showed it had it in the northeast Caribbean. And one thing I will say is that although the European is the best model we currently have in the tropical Atlantic, it has been jumping around a whole lot over the last several runs. Everything has been different, especially if you look at the 200 millibar level. The troughs and ridges have really been changing their positions and strengths on the model, and it has been a big mess, honestly, and this has been jumping all over the place. It's had trouble with the alignment of this ridge. It's had it weaker and farther north on some runs. The entire upper pattern is really messy on the European, and it can't quite figure this pattern out, so it is having trouble over the next 10 days. You got the Canadian coming up in here. The GFS is in between with an open wave in the western Bahamas, and so there is some disagreement on where this will go, so it's hard to say right now, but you can see the trend is for ridging to develop back over the eastern United States and Western Atlantic, and so I still think this has a much greater chance of coming west and affecting land, affecting somebody in this area rather than recurving. I don't think this is going out to sea. The MJO coming back into our area of the world soon is promoting ridging starting to build back into this area. So we'll have to watch for this to be a threat if this develops. Here's the GFS real quick, showing an open wave coming into the Eastern Caribbean in 6 days, and a little something here in the Western Caribbean from this wave that I mentioned will have to be watched as it comes westward. See if we can get some mischief over in the Western Caribbean. And it keeps this open, brings it into the Bahamas in 10 days. So there is some disagreement. We'll have to keep an eye out, see if Colin tries to form over the next few days. It's not a guarantee that it will develop. It'll be a slow organizer, and you can't really trust the models when you've got a big tropical wave that may merge with this. The models aren't going to know exactly where the center is and how this is going to develop. You have to get this whole area to conglomerate and then try to form something up in here. But for now, the models can only be used as an indicator that, hey, this might develop, there's something that can happen, we've got more ridging, so anything that does develop may threaten the coast somewhere, so I should be on the lookout. And that's the reasoning that we should be using with the models right now. That's it for today. We'll keep watching for Colin. Thanks for watching.